I'd like to share with you some basic boondocking tips that have worked for us over the last number of years. I'm Dave with Dave and Diane Throwing Caution to the Wind. And in today's video, we want to share some tips that we've used over a number of years while out boondocking. Now, we boondock in an RV. So if you're out in a tent or something like that, a lot of these things won't pertain to you. But if you're out in any kind of RV, a lot of these will work. So hang on, and I'm going to show you a few. So the first thing I'd probably suggest is, if you've never boondocked before, I'd recommend that you take your RV to an RV park with full hookups. Don't hook up to any utilities though. Make sure that your gray tank, your black tank are completely empty. Make sure your freshwater tank is completely full. Make sure your propane bottles are completely full. And just sit in that park and live your life. Do what you do every day and see how long you can survive with what you have in your water tanks and what you have available on your black and gray, and get an idea of how many days you can go just living your life as normal. That could be, for some people, could be 2 days. And in some rigs, the capacities are different. So that's going to differ for every single person. And at the end of that, you're already going to be in an RV park. So if you find yourself in a bad way where your black tank's all full or you run out of water, all you have to do is go outside, hook up to the utilities, and get well again. Then what I'd recommend is, now you've figured out how long you can survive living your life with no changes, now empty that gray tank, empty that black tank, fill up that freshwater tank again, and try to conserve a little bit. And I'm going to share with you some of the things you can do to conserve. All right, before we get into all the conserving tips, the second thing I would suggest is, once you find yourself a place to go boondocking and you drive out there, be courteous to other people out there boondocking like you plan to do. Most of us that boondock want to come out to a place like this and they want to be by themselves. But we also know that being completely by yourselves, a lot like we are right now, is pretty hard to do anymore. So when you see somebody, you pull in, you see somebody set up, don't pull within 30, 40, 50 foot of them. If you can go 100 yards, 200 yards, 300 yards away from them, go over there and boondock. You want your privacy, and so do the people that are already out there. So keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind when you're picking that spot to boondock is, how are you going to power your rig? Are you going to run a generator? Do you have a nice quiet Honda generator, for example, something like that? Do you have a real noisy job site generator? Or do you run off solar most of the time? Now, where that comes into play is, if you're like us, we mainly use solar. So we're not going to bother too many people with any noise. If we do have to run a generator, it's a propane generator, and it's pretty quiet. So once you get, I don't know, not that far away, you won't even hear our generator running. But if you have one of those real nice, fancy, loud, obnoxious job site generators, you know who you are. You're not going to be the most popular kid on the block. You want to park as far away from everybody you possibly can, because they're going to hear you for a mile away. And trust me, nobody wants to hear your generators running all day. It's a free world. You do what you want. I'm not judging. But if it were me and I had a job site generator, I would try to get as far away from people as I possibly could. And if you're like us and you use solar, you want to pay attention to the orientation of your rig with where the sun's going. And only you know how your panels are set up on your roof. For shading, air conditioning units could shade your panels, your satellite antenna could shade your panels. All those things come into play, so keep that in mind when you park your rig. Another thing to take into consideration when you're parking your rig out boondocking is, where's your refrigerator at in your rig? It's much better, regardless if you have a residential refrigerator, an RV refrigerator that runs off of propane and battery, it doesn't matter. If you can get that refrigerator on the shady side of your coach, you will use less power to keep that refrigerator cool. So for example, for us, we have a residential refrigerator. It's on our passenger side, and as you notice, our passenger side is on the opposite side we are right now, and the way the sun goes where we're boondocking right now, the sun will never hit the wall that our refrigerator's on, and that just helps us save power. Something else to think about is security. So as you can see, as we turned around a little bit ago, there's no one around us. I can't see another camper or another person. So our security is up to us. So we're out boondocking. We unhook the truck. I leave the truck parked really close to the coach, so no one can come and just hook up to it. I know the slides are out. They look pretty funny running down the road with slides out, but a good thief can break into the coach. They know how to run those panels, bring your slides in. They can get your jacks up. All that's pretty easy. Any RVer can figure that out. But if I leave the truck parked real close to the hitch, they're going to have a hard time getting in there and getting that trailer and hauling it off. Now for us, it's easy because we have a second vehicle with us. So we take the CRV and we go do our touring with the CRV while we're leaving the truck sit here and the coach. And having that second vehicle, they don't know that we have two vehicles unless they're already scoped us out. And again, a good thief, they're going to scope us out. But make it as hard as you can for them. Now I realize not everybody travels with a second vehicle. So if you're in a fifth wheel, they have those locks that you can put on your kingpin. Get one of those and put it on there. In fact, I'm at fault. Even though we have this set up, we should have one of those kingpin locks and have it on there. So I'm going to buy one of those. I'm going to do a video on it. So keep that in mind. Another thing about security is we have bikes in the back of our fifth wheel. Now we lock them up all the time. But when we go boondocking, we have extra chains and cables that we put around our bikes. Again, a good thief is going to get through anything. All we try to do is deter them, make it harder for them, give us more time in the middle of the night to hear them rattling around so we can go out there and do whatever we feel like we can do within our abilities. And again, you want to make it tough for the thief. All right, here's another tip that seems pretty basic. But when you're out boondocking, typically you're not going to run ACs. So unless you have mini splits you're running off batteries or a huge battery bank, you're not going to be running AC to keep you nice and cool if you're out boondocking like us. So today it's going to be 86 degrees. So it's going to get warm inside that coach. So if you put out any awnings you can to keep the sun off your windows, you're going to be better off come the end of the day. So when you're out and about boondocking, a lot of times you're in remote areas, and critters want to find anything they can to eat and survive, including anything they might be able to get into in your coach, whether it's inside your coach, in electronics bay so they can chew on some wires, in the engine compartment of your car or truck. Any place they can go to ruin your life, they'll go. Now one of the things we've used for a number of years now is this product right here, Cab Fresh. I'm not going to talk about it a lot right now. I'll do a video on it later and we'll have it on the channel. But this is all natural herbs. Actually smells pretty good to me, but to the rodents, they don't like the smell. So we buy this on Amazon. I'm going to put a link down below in the description in case you're interested in this. And we buy it from Amazon. We throw it in our electronic bay. We throw it in our cargo bay. I'll throw it in anywhere I can that's not really open to the outside, right? So the more open it is to the outside, the less this will work. But in a basement or something like that, it's a great product. We've been using this for probably, I'm going to guess right now, 5 years. And once we had some mice in our coach, we were boondocking out in the country in a field basically, and we had a couple mice get in, and we immediately started using this kind of stuff. And knock on wood, we have never had a mouse or a rodent of any type in our coach since we started using this. That's just our story. It could differ for you. All right, while we're talking about critters, here's something you can do. So usually mice and critters, things like that, and they're trying to explore, they like to go where it's dark. So if you're out camping like we are in the middle of the desert, the moon's been pretty bright every night and the stars have been bright. So we come out and we leave the hood open in our cars. Now, all that does is the moonlight will go down inside that engine compartment and helps ward off those critters from wanting to get inside there. Another thing you can do, we've done this a number of times, is buy some solar-powered LED lights and throw them under your car, wrap them inside your engine compartment, whatever you want to do. When we had the Class A, we used to throw it under the engine compartment in the Class A. Anything you can do to put light into those areas, that helps keep the critters away. I've also heard that Irish Spring soap helps keep critters away. We have not used that. So solar lights and fresh cab are our main defenses. Now earlier I mentioned fresh cab and having it in enclosed areas. Setting a packet of fresh cab up here on the engine certainly can't hurt anything, but you know, there's air movement out here, so it's certainly going to be less effective. So we feel personally, that's just our opinion, that the lights are the best option. Here's something else to consider. So before you take off and head out to your boondocking spot, consider making a few meals in advance to make it nice and convenient your first couple, 3-4 days out camping. So for example, right now, Diane has a pot of chili going. So we get there, we're going to have probably 4 days worth of meals right here in this pot of chili. So chili, lasagna, stew, anything like that you can pre-make, makes it nice and easy and convenient for a while. You might also notice this right here. So maybe you're like us. Maybe you have a real big battery bank. Maybe you have a lot of solar up on top of the roof that you can still use your crock pot or Instapot during the day. If that's the case, consider having these. Now these are slow cooker liners. So if you get out there and you make something at the campsite, you use these liners, it helps conserve water. And you always want to conserve water whenever you can out boondocking. Alright, while we're talking about conserving water, here's another tip. Even though the freshwater tank in our particular RV is 100 gallons and is 100% drinkable, we like to save that for showers and bathroom use and whatever else. So what we do is we have a BPA rated jug that we fill up with water. Right here, this is I think 7 gallons. And then we also fill up a bunch of water jugs like this. And then as we use this water out of these water jugs, we keep these in the refrigerator. We fill these up out of this jug. And then on top of that, in case we run low on water while we're out boondocking, there might be a town nearby within a few miles or whatever. Like right now, we're about 10 miles from the nearest town. We always carry our Berkey water filter with us, and whatever water we bring back into the coach, we run through that Berkey. So having extra jugs of water before you take off is another great idea. And while we're standing right here talking about saving water, here's another great tip. Paper plates and paper bowls. Easy cleanup. Come fire time in the evening, in they go. Save on water. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. And that's going to the bathroom while you're out boondocking. There's a saying that most boondockers use. It goes like this. If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. In other words, if you come in and pee, leave it be. Shut the lid and let it mellow. No big deal. The next person that comes in and needs to take a pee can pee over your pee. It's no big deal. And then when it comes time for somebody to come in and do a number 2, in other words, poo, the liquid that's already in the tank from people peeing previous to you pooing can be used to flush down your brown. Not a big deal. Now, I would recommend that you don't eat asparagus while you're practicing this, but otherwise, it's not a big deal. So, and if you happen to have that back-to-back poo session, and there's not enough liquid in the tank for you to flush, then the 2-gallon bucket of water that we're going to talk about here pretty soon will help you out in that situation. You just take some of that water that you have in that bucket, put it in your toilet to help flush down. What that does, you're not wasting any water out of your fresh tank, and you're getting that liquid you need in order to flush down your number 2. It says here, animals, marking territory is done when animals are wanting to stake out a claim to a particular object and to let others know about their claim. Some animals may go to the extreme of urinating to mark a particular area as their own. All right, let's clean it up a little bit. Let's talk about showers. First off, you're out boondocking. You're out in nature. Nobody cares if you skip a day, 2 days, 3 days between showers. Let your daily activity tell you whether you need to take a shower or not. Between shower days, consider taking spit baths, or maybe even bring baby wipes. You can clean your feet, your legs, your arms, your armpits. You can clean up pretty good with baby wipes, or those spit baths do a great job. Another thing to think about on shower days is if you camp with 2 people or 3 people, take your baths on the same day. Not only the same day, but take them right after each other. So Diane and I, we have a 16-gallon water heater in our RV. When it comes time for shower days, we plan it out. So today's our shower day. We have the hot water heater on now. When it gets hot, one of us will go in, take a shower, and as soon as that person gets done, they're going to get out of there, and the other person is going to jump in. What that does is when the first person gets in, you're going to waste a lot of water running through the lines until you get hot water. If you have one person take a shower right after the other person, that second person does not waste all that water coming through the lines. So that's a huge water saving tip right there. Another water saving tip is this bucket. Bring this bucket along with you. So the first person that gets in to take a shower, they're going to run that water into this bucket until they get warm water. Going to set that aside, take the shower. Second person comes in, takes a shower, and all is good. The water that's in this bucket is clean water. You can use it for a number of things. You can use it to help wash dishes. You can use it to brush your teeth. I use it to help rinse my beard on those non-shower days. You can use it to water some plants you may have in your RV that you travel with. You can use it for a number of things. If you wanted to, you could dump it back in your fresh tank because it really is clean water. Doesn't hurt a thing. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go in there and like I said, it's our shower day. I'm going to run some water until I get hot water, and I'm going to show you how much we save. Let's go take a look. All right, I'm going to keep this family friendly. So I'm going to turn on the water. I'm going to let it run into this bucket, like I said. Now, not only does this help conserve water, but this also helps conserve on our gray tank. So let's see how much water we use before we get hot water. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. That's how much water we use. We now have hot water. All right, so that's not a lot of water, right? That's actually better than I thought it would be in this coach. But that's maybe 2 gallons of water. That's 2 gallons of water that would be in our gray tank, or 2 gallons of water that we couldn't use. And we will find good use for that. So, Now it's time for my shower. You're gonna have to excuse me. Oh man, I feel so good after that shower. Another thing that came to mind as I was showering that I forgot to bring up is a shower head. So when you buy an RV, you usually have some cheap plastic shower head. Conserving water is probably the last thing they think about. So go out and buy a Oxygenics or a water pick shower head. That's a water saving design. The way it's designed, it still gives you good pressure, but it does cut back on the water use. Then you also want to look for one that you can turn the water off at the shower head. You can turn the valve off if you want to. That's one way to get around it. But if you turn the shower head off, it usually allows for a little trickle of water. Not enough to make any difference. And what that does, it just keeps that hot water moving toward your shower head. So, and again, during the shower, you might use, I don't know, 1/10 of a gallon of water while it's dripping through. Not very much at all. So we've used both. We've used a water pick shower head, and I think now we have a Oxygenic shower head. They both work pretty well. I think if we lean toward one or the other, we would lean toward the Oxygenics. So I'm going to put a link down below in the description, an Amazon link that'll take you to the two that we have used in the past. And once again, if you happen to click on that and make a purchase from Amazon, we will get a small kickback, a few pennies. Trust me, it's not very much, but you'll pay the same price, so don't worry about that. Another thing to think about for taking a shower is take a military shower. So get in, get good and wet, turn the water off. And if you get one of those shower heads I'm talking about, you can turn it off at the head and water will still trickle through, so it'll still be hot when you turn it back on. Turn the water off and then take your bath. Suds up, get yourself good and clean, and then turn that water back on, and then rinse off your body. You're good to go. They say that by taking military showers, you can save up to 90% of your water use during taking showers. That's huge. 90%. Think about it. Here's another tip for you. Consider carrying a spare water pump. If you're out boondocking and your water pump gives out on you, you're going to be in a bad way. It's going to ruin your whole experience. And I know water pumps are from cheap to expensive. I think the spare water pump that we carry with us is about 90 bucks. So I get it that they're not cheap, but take it from me with experience. I was actually in the shower one time and the water gave out. Didn't know what went on. So went outside and checked, and our water pump basically exploded. I don't know what happened to it. Luckily, we carried an extra water pump. Now, I wasn't happy because I was kind of soapy, but I barely got dressed. I came outside. I was able to switch out that water pump, went back in and finished my shower, and I was a happy camper. So keep that in mind. It can, and if you boondock a lot, it will happen to you. All right, so this may not be limited to boondockers, but when we're camping in a campground with full hookups, it doesn't bother us nearly as much. But think about this. You're sitting outside around the campfire every night, maybe for a week, 2 weeks, whatever. And I don't know about you, but the smoke always follows beauty. And I'm always in the smoke. So, being out boondocking, we can't get all smoky smelling, go inside, take our clothes off, and throw them in the wash machine and do a load of wash, right? We have to conserve on our water. We have to conserve on the clothes we have with us. So what I like to do, well actually what we like to do, is we find a pair of pants, maybe a shirt and a jacket that we want to use while sitting around the campfire. And then we'll go sit around the campfire, we'll have those clothes on. When it's time to go back inside, we take those clothes off, we hang them over a mirror on a truck, hang them over a step ladder you have sitting outside, hang them in a branch, hang them up somewhere high. Wherever you can. First of all, you don't have to keep on changing clothes all the time. Secondly, you probably don't want to have those smoky smelling clothes inside your coach. And if you hang them outside overnight, they're going to kind of air out. So by the time you get around to a fire the next night, you can throw on those same clothes and they might be aired out pretty good. All right, here's another tip, a very important tip. So when we go out boondocking, we like to at least go places that we still have cell service. That way, if we have an emergency, we can get on the phone and call somebody. Now, think about it. Typically when you go out boondocking, there's no address there. There's no campground name. So where do you tell people to come find you? So here's what we do. Even when we're camping at different campgrounds around the country, we do this as well. Inside our cupboard door, we have a dry erase board. So when we're out boondocking, we get on the phone, we have an app that gives us our GPS coordinates. And we write that right up here on this dry erase board. That way if something does ever happen, we don't have to fumble around and try and figure out where we are, find the app. You know, you're going to be under fire. Not fire, hopefully, but you're going to be in a stressful situation more than likely. And not everyone handles stress the same. So if you have the information handy, it could save a life. All right, here's our final tip. Boondocking locations are closing down faster than we can shake a stick at it. And the main reason that's happening is because people are abusing the privilege. And they're leaving messes behind. And the states and the government are getting tired of it. So it makes it bad for people like you and I. So when you go out to a spot and you boondock, pack out what you pack in. If there's something left behind when you get there, if at all possible, pick it up and take it with you. Leave that spot better than it was when you got there. Let's help keep the boondocking spots open. All right, so that's enough tips for this video. Hopefully it didn't drag on too long. But those are all tips that Diane and I use. Every time we go boondocking, those are things that we practice. We've been practicing those same things for years and years and years. We don't find them to be very extreme. We're not extreme boondockers. We're not trying to stay out here for a month or two at a time. We know that 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks is plenty. I think the longest that we've actually stayed out camping and not having to go dump our tanks or take on fresh water was 17 days actually. So, you know, we could have pushed it longer, but that's fine. After 17 days, it was time to pack up and go do something different anyway. But like I said, we practice all those things. We don't feel that they're overboard. We enjoy doing that. It extends our boondocking experience, and hopefully you'll enjoy it too. Keep some of those in mind. Leave some comments down below if you have some other good boondocking tips that maybe we didn't mention that others may like to hear about. Leave us a comment if you use some of these tips. Maybe you can tell us how to better what we do. We'd appreciate that. And if you got anything out of this video, we appreciate a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. And as always, have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.